Andrew, good evening to you.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Was this to be expected, do you think, this announcement?
Yes, we've been anticipating it for a bit now, but this is really something that should have happened, within the past year or two.
Okay, there was a deadline put in place, wasn't there, a couple of weeks ago, that France, UK and Germany would do this unless Iran agreed to a diplomatic solution by the end of August. What might that diplomatic solution have looked like?
It's hard to tell realistically, there's nothing that Iran was going to be willing to agree to at this point that would be acceptable to the West. Um, that's why snapback is really so essential and such a good step, is because Tehran's behavior has left Europe with no other choice here. The regime has broken every commitment it's made under the nuclear deal. It's threatened inspectors to the point where the director general of the IAEA has to live under constant protection wherever he was. And of course, has continued advancing its nuclear program. So snapback is significant here because it doesn't need it avoids a veto from China and Russia, which most UN national security resolutions require. So that makes it much harder now for the regime to expand its military capabilities and to export instability abroad.
Yeah, I was about to ask what the sanctions might be. Just elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. So this would reinstate all prior UN sanctions, including restrictions on arms embargoes and missile development. So now, while sanctions are not a silver bullet, they are a critical part of accountability. And in this case, snapback reimposes measures that the regime has worked very hard to escape, especially those that I mentioned on weapons and missile programs. So it deprives Tehran of resources that it uses to both repress its own citizens and to destabilize the region. And I would add the timing here really matters. As I said, this probably should have been done in the past year, but doing it now after the 12-day war, where the regime is significantly weakened, it faces internal unrest, economic collapse. Tightening the sanctions now makes it harder for them to recover.
Yeah, I also wonder whether the E3 nations, UK, France and Germany, wanted to put an appropriate amount of time between the 12-day war, Israel and Iran, and of course the US bombing those Iranian nuclear facilities, whether they wanted to put a decent amount of time in between these sanctions being reimposed.
Yeah, we know there was some movement with the IAEA trying to figure out what where the enriched uranium was, to get some accountability of what had happened. But Iran, the regime in Iran, really wasn't willing to play ball. And now we're even seeing, though this process has been triggered, it'll be a 30-day or so process here, culminating around the UN General Assembly in the mid to end of September. And we're already seeing the reports that Europe is again giving the regime time, saying maybe, there's something that the regime can do to convince us not to follow through. I would say that's the exact kind of trap that the regime has set for decades now. They drag things out, they offer token concessions, and then they count on the West to lose focus or believe their lies. So I would hope the E3 doesn't fall into that trap again, into that pattern again for the next 30 days. It will undo the credibility of the step that they have taken. Snapback is only going to work if it's carried out in full force. So Europe should not allow Tehran to now stall and talk its way out of accountability yet again.
Yeah, for their part, Iran's foreign ministry said the move would seriously undermine its ongoing process with the International Atomic Energy Agency. But as you say, that is hardly a two-way process at the moment, is it? Iran have called it a provocative and unnecessary escalation, which will be met with appropriate response. I mean, to sort of boil it all down, Iran is currently enriching uranium to a point which is totally unnecessary. The only presumed outcome, really, if they're going to enrich it to that point, would be for nuclear weapons. It's just way above what you'd need for domestic energy use, for example.
Yeah, 100%. I would say it's clear that the nuclear program is not just a bargaining chip for the regime. It is part of their ultimate survival strategy. They see it as their ultimate insurance policy. Every time sanctions have been eased or negotiations have dragged on, they've used that space to advance their program further, as well as to enrich their proxies. So they won't stop voluntarily. The only way to slow them is pressure, backed by measures like snapback. The only way to permanently stop them is to help the Iranian people in their fight to bring about regime change. And that's where providing maximum support to the Iranian people comes in.
Look, thank you for being with us, Andrew Ghalili there, who is a senior policy analyst for the US-based think tank, the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Now, let's talk football. The draw's taken